Yeah, Erin was flying back tomorrow, but she changed her flight.
Good move.
She'll be working from Texas tomorrow.
Neighbors flew out today from St. Croix, but they have a house. Jealous.
The Bracy's?
Yes.
Yeah, their daughter lives there, right? Or they did have a daughter that lived there?
Their son lives there.
Yeah,
His daughter,
Yeah.
And Alice.
So that they built a little cabin on the property.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that was my Thanksgiving. Great.
Yeah.
What are your plans for Thanksgiving?
Well, where was your daughter?
You're still leaving. Home, but it was fine with
She
the
didn't really.
obstacle, a social
All right.
crowd. And I brought her food.
Yeah.
Safe.
I got some Waldeboro friends of yours this past weekend. I think one of his name's Brian. They used to play.
Brian and Laura.
Yes.
Brian Dunn.
Yes. Okay.
And Laura Bucksbaum.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, they are.
Very fine people. And good musicians.
Mhm.
He does a lot of sort of John Prine kind of stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
Like
fine.
mandolin, guitar, banjo, whatever.
Listening to John Prine on the way down.
Oh, yeah? I'm already listening.
It's so sad. when he died.
Oh, it was.
But you can see his music is gonna go on and on.
That's right.
He was in Paris and had a show in February 2020, COVID.
Awesome.
And when he came back,
That,
tested positive.
that's right. I'd forgotten it. Died of COVID.
Hey, hi Susie.
All right, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I had two friends die.
See if you can find a seat.
It's pretty crowded out here.
Yeah, I think of John Prine as kind of a poem.
Oh,
Yeah, poets, yeah. It's
Absolutely.
lyrics, some of them are a little obscure. That's how poetry is.
One of my wife's first dance at our wedding was to a John Prine song.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
He's very cool.
Yeah.
That's right.
Where did you meet Brian and Laura?
At Cider Hill Farm in Waldeboro. They played music with
Nice.
Yeah.
So even this time of year, they
Yeah.
have music.
Yeah, we stayed.
I didn't know
That's
about that
nice.
gig. Thanks.
All right, well, it's 6:00. We'll start. The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you for being here on Storm Eve. Do we have
It would
any?
be a bummer if it's all just raining.
I don't think it's gonna be
I
too
think
much.
that's what it's gonna be.
Really?
It's gonna rain.
As long as it's not ice. So, do we have adjustments to the agenda? I don't think so. Conflicts of interest, anybody? No. Minutes of the last meeting, I'm hoping people reviewed those carefully since they had Bill Kelly's summary of the English Town Road
Right.
West issues. Did people have any other changes
So change.
to those? So, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes. All right, Steve, second, we're gonna have to talk because we don't have a human helping with minutes tonight. All in favor? That's all five of us. And Brandon, since those have been approved, if you'd have, tell Bill Betty, they're ready to, be posted. Since we don't have a secretary to do that. Do we have any communications to share?
I received a call, in follow up to one of the recent, resilience meetings and from Jolene Wilson with some sort of feedback for the town that she asked me to share with the board. One is that she was asking for a bit more community engagement with this effort. I know that that was the first step of that process of engaging the community, but she'd shared that she didn't know anybody on the committee, and it would be nice to know more of the people. And then she shared that there were more immediate needs for Factory Road, such as lighting to make that the banked area more safe. There's no street light there. And resurfacing, and I assured her that those efforts could still happen and I would look into those, and that they were not mutually exclusive in terms of the long range planning. So I think just mostly a desire to be more sort of connected and informed on this process, this project.
Did you tell her to watch the website or, I mean, things get posted. I'm just wondering how we can keep her aware. Since I thought you all had done a pretty good job of putting on Facebook and on the town website, things about the resilience committee,
And posters all over Port Clyde.
which is where she lives, right? Well, hopefully she will,
I have a list
Be
of
aware.
people that has to be on the Zoom meetings, and so I can just, every time we do something, I'll just send it to all of those people.
okay, that's a good idea. All right, the warrant. I had one question and the one that had to do with road. Is that road property construction? What is that? $21,945.
Yeah, so it's a septic system that was paid for via a grant, but the town has to pay for it up front and then get reimbursed. It's not it's a private system. It's not a town system or anything. But private residents can apply for these, and when it's awarded, they have to work through the town. The money is distributed that way.
So we accepted a grant and then we dispersed the money for their.
Yes, and so that same figure will come back in to reimburse that line. And so it's coded under planning. I mean, Terry worked on that project, but also as a way to help for tracking, because there's not normally road contracting in as a budgeted line in planning, so it'll show what went out and exactly what came back in without other charges sort of mixed in. If that makes sense.
But it doesn't have anything to do with the road.
No,
Okay,
but we used to have one that was just like contracted services. Irene's system is much more specific now, but it doesn't make sense to add a budget line for septic systems, for example.
Right.
Private septic system grant reimbursement when it happens so rarely.
Was the old system a septic field or was it overland discharge? I mean, was it a pro-environmental matter to have this system?
Yes, I believe so. I think that's
Okay.
why I was eligible for the grant.
Yeah, okay.
did anybody else have any questions about the warrant?
No.
There was some construction funds, but now I don't remember what it was, and I just didn't recognize. Is it CCC or something?
Yeah, that was the one he was just talking
Oh,
about.
that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was-
Never mind.
Right. All right, then, the consensus is that we will approve the disbursement of $764,695.74 pursuant to the warrant dated December 1.
Do we have to make a motion and second that or?
No,
We don't.
we were told we don't, but
Good.
we always discuss it and make sure everybody's in agreement, but seems odd that we wouldn't. All right, do we have public comment from anybody tonight? No, all right, then moving right along to our annual review and presentation from Matthew from the first. Thank you for coming again.
See everyone again.
Um,
I've provided this presentation materials here.
yeah, this is the one that we did out at home.
What's color?
Yeah,
And I go through this pretty quickly. The second page here is just some propaganda from our bank. Yeah. And the third page is my third quarter market newsletter where I correctly predict what's gonna happen in the next 6 to 12 months.
Such confidence.
So happy reading there and then getting into the statement and where we're at in terms of the allocation, which is this pie chart page here. Shows the cash allocation at the top, a little over 4%. Where equity allocations right there at 60%, and the remaining funds are invested in CDs and bond funds and bonds for the town. And then you have the activity summary at the bottom. There is a performance number there, but please ignore that. That's sort of a function of this statement. But it's not vetted or it's not audited, and we'll get to the audited numbers here in a minute from our performance vendor. But going to the next page, you'll see that money market figure at the top. We still have a fairly good yield there on money market. It's actually changed to 3.8 now, just at the beginning of the month. But it's still well above where it was just several years ago. The equity funds, as you can see there, we want to make sure we have diversification across all markets. We have 2 funds that represent large cap domestic companies, and that's the Dodge and Cox Stock Fund and the Fidelity Growth. One is a value-oriented fund that focuses on industrial names, banks, utilities, and the Fidelity Growth Company fund is technology and more growth oriented. So all those names that we've heard in the news, for instance, NVIDIA, which makes the AI chips, that's the largest position in that Fidelity Growth Fund. So the town, has investments in AI, if you will, but by using these funds, we're well diversified. We're not buying individual stocks, which I think increases the risk to the portfolio. We don't typically buy individual stocks for municipalities. We use diversified funds to do that. All of these funds have performed well. The exception to that is the bottom fund, the Neuberger Berman, has underperformed its peers this year. Our investment committee is going to review that fund, and it's likely that we're going to remove it from all of our portfolios, not just for St. George, but we're going to remove it across the board.
Where will you go?
That's a good question. Yeah. So what we do when we look for replacements is we go out to Morningstar, which is a third party research firm for mutual funds. And we'll create a screen where we want to see certain things from a fund. We want to see a manager that's been in place for at least 5 years, but typically we like to see 10. We want to see performance, obviously, that's long-term, so that, their funds can have 4 years. But if they can show consistent, performance that beats the benchmark, That's what we want to see over 5 and 10 years. And we also want to see a fee from the fund that's lower than the category average. So that's another screen that we use. And then we have some risk metrics that we put in there as well that want to make sure that the fund over time tracks the benchmark to a certain degree. You know, we don't want to see a fund that underperforms the benchmark by 6% one year and then outperforms by 5%. We want to see more consistent performance over the long term. The next page is the fixed income allocation. As I mentioned, we use a mixture of both CDs, bonds, and bond funds. As you can see on the far right column, the yield for most of these bonds or bond funds is north of 4%, with a couple of exceptions. But we're getting a total yield on the fixed income of over 4%, 4.32. So what I've been trying to do is lock in some of these rates now before the Fed cuts. They're indicated that they're going to cut at least 2 more times by the end of the first quarter. So our plan here is to look for 3, 4, 5-year CDs or bonds that we can lock in these rates before they go down. By the time we look at these in mid of 26, we won't get these rates. So that's our strategy there. The next page goes a little bit deeper into the allocations. Again, the equity diversification is about 50-50, 50% large cap, domestic names. All of those companies we know very well, the Johnson & Johnsons and Coca-Colas would be represented there. And then we make sure that we again have that international and mid cap and small cap exposure. International has done very well this year, catching up, if you will, to domestic markets in terms of performance, because over the last 5 or 6 years, it's been a story about Silicon Valley and those companies. Really the reason why we're seeing our domestic markets outperform over the last 5 or 6 years. So the international is catching up, and then on the right side there is our CDs and bonds and a little bit of diversification on that side of the portfolio. And then the good stuff here is the performance report with the bar graph on the next page. Fiscal year to date through October, we're up 13.3% on the town portfolio against a benchmark of 12.68. The 1 year is right there with the benchmark. And 3-year, 5-year numbers, those are annualized. So when you see that 13%, that's an annualized number for the last 3 years. So that's good performance. Certainly the markets have helped. These are trust funds. They're perpetual in nature. We want to keep them around forever and support the scholarship winners here in town and the other trusts that are here and that we manage. And we put them all into one account, but then provide sub accounting for the town. And hope that's been going well, and you can give me some feedback there if it hasn't. The next page is the individual fund returns. And you can see on the top there's all the bond funds doing very well this year as rates have come down, bond prices go up. And then on the bottom you see the mutual fund returns on the equity side of the portfolio. And we've been very pleased, with the exception of that Newburgh fund, with performance against the benchmarks.
Curious how, like the Newburgh fund, how long do you watch it underperform before you say this has got to go? Or is there no set amount of time?
Well, we understand that funds can, they can go up and down depending on the type of market and type of a strategy they use. So we try to be patient, but this is quite a underperformance this year from the benchmark. So for us, it's time to move on. We had the portfolio team call us and speak to us back in June. And, they said that they are a value-oriented fund company, which is fine. There are value markets and growth markets, but, when you're underperforming, the small cap is up 12% and they have a negative number. So it happens to be the smallest allocation in the fund, or one of the smallest allocations, so.
Did
It
something
doesn't-
change there
Yeah,
that made them decline?
uh,
Cause it looks like over 10 years they're,
their 10-year number's fine.
yeah,
Their
they're
10-year
in the
number's
market,
fine.
right in the pack.
Yeah, they made a few poor decisions recently, and that's what's been negative.
Yep.
Negatively impact the fund. So yeah, I think we've had it for over 2 years. So like I said, we are patient, but this is an exception to that. We're ready to move on.
You mentioned your reporting to Irene and Brandon breaks down what percentage of the total is funds held in trust
Yeah.
versus other money.
Yeah.
What percentage is funds held in the trust that we have?
100% of us.
Yeah.
So all of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's cemetery perpetual care
Right.
funds and scholarship funds.
We're gonna talk about the funds for.
Right,
a
okay.
minute.
Okay, yeah.
Right after you, but that's what I was wondering, if there was anything other than
No,
trust funds. Okay.
I have a couple, can I?
Yeah, sure.
So it seems like a lot in cash. Is there a reason to keep this much money in cash?
yeah, so we tend to be 3 to 4% on our cash side, especially with our money market rate being close to 4%.
Yeah,
It makes sense to at least have that percentage right now. If I see a CD that I can lock in 4.25, but I have to go up pretty far to find that. And it's still kind of a straight line in terms of yields going from 2, 3, 4, and 5 years. So we're just being patient. If we see a good offer out there, but most times if you want a higher rate, you have to agree to a callable and CD, and there's the trade-off.
I don't know what a callable is.
Well, an issuer can make a bond or a CD callable before the
they can call it
maturity
in?
date. Yes. The
Uh,
trade-off is they give you a higher rate of return.
Yeah, but all of a sudden that's gone and you
Then
have
it's-
whatever the market's at now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then my other question was, I thought generally and it seemed like last year it was more evenly divided between equities and bonds.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about equities, this is okay with me, but this just seemed like a
That
higher percentage.
that
than usual.
allocation represents my or our investment committee's feelings about where we are right now in terms of the markets. And my whole thing is, over 25 years, is I don't fight the Fed. And when the Fed is lowering rates, it's usually good for equities.
Mhm.
And because it lowers their borrowing costs. And it typically helps, especially for small cap stocks, but I think it helps equity
All
markets in
across the
general.
board.
So, we'll look at that, probably in March, April, when we don't have that clarity if they're going to continue
Okay,
with cutting. And then maybe we'll take some profits at that time and come down a little bit, but as a perpetual fund, it should be close to 60-40
oh, okay.
most of the time. Yeah, there should be a bias towards growth.
Yep.
To keep it around.
And when you,
Especially with inflation, running at, closer to 3%, not 2%, it makes sense to have more equity.
Yeah.
exposure.
I agree. And then, when you go and look for new, mutual funds, can you also screen for social things and stuff like that?
Socially responsible? Yeah. Yeah.
And do you, or would you need to hear that from the municipality?
We'd have to hear it from the municipality that they would want if it's just a certain allocation into, that type of investment, we can do that. What I tell folks that are interested in socially responsible funds is, it's fine to, if you feel, very passionate about that, it's fine to have a piece of your portfolio into socially responsible, but I don't recommend having all socially responsible
Mhm.
funds because they tend to be more in the tech sector. Because those companies like Google, they have a mandate to be socially responsible, so they can be a little more risky, the socially responsible, because they're gonna have more of a tech allocation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I try to cap, our clients' exposure to that about 5% portfolio.
that makes sense.
There, in the materials we got there, there's nothing that says what you dispersed to the town in the past year. Where would we learn that?
Yeah,
I can get you that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
You folks, the select board, we did not disperse anything that the select board did not sign off on. It would all be.
No, I didn't think that you did. I just wondered, what the number was that came into the town from these investments. Obviously, the scholarship money. But I'm curious too about like the cemetery perpetual care money.
I can get them.
Okay, that'd be great. Did other people have questions? I feel like this is a really important annual review.
Yeah.
For us to do, and we really appreciate your coming and your professional judgment and answering these questions because, this is money we're responsible for on behalf of the residents of St. George, and
Yeah.
not all of us have much experience with these judgments, so thank you.
You're welcome.
That was such a nice way to put it.
And Irene, if you need help in terms of when we're getting ready to disperse those scholarship funds, we worked with Richard Bates a little bit about a spreadsheet, if you will, which broke down the earnings, the income and principal together for the year.
Yeah, I get those every quarter.
Okay.
You guys give those to me every quarter and I update our numbers in our software
Okay.
with those.
Yeah, we have to take direction from the town when we disperse those funds, but we're happy to help with, figuring out what you'll have, to disperse based upon the original document.
Yeah, and that's kind of a perfect segue to the discussion of the review of the trust documents.
You don't have to stay for this.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That Wendy and Susie, and were there others?
Betty and, we had, thank you so much, Jim.
Yes, thank you.
We had four of us and we thought we'd have 3 meetings with Irene and it was fast. So I guess it was just Irene and Wendy and me and Betty. Yeah. So the town has 12 trust accounts. These are different from our reserve accounts. It's a whole different pile of money that's been left to the town by various individuals. And in the 12, there are 3 cemetery care funds, 1 school use fund that's been untouched since 1963, 2 funds for the care of the poor in town, 4 scholarship funds that provide 10 scholarships, one for the tennis courts and one for the Fisherman's Memorial. And there's also, in the select board policy manual, there's a policy for the investment of trust funds. And it was approved in 2013, but it should be reviewed.
Annually,
Yeah, and so does that happen?
yes,
Okay.
it does.
Yeah, that's what we're doing now.
Oh,
Well, actually, we review all the select board policies soon after the new fiscal year. And so that
So-
happened.
in the investment policy, there's a section on allowable investments, and I emailed Matt to see how we, which of these we use, and it uses what you just heard about, well diversified mutual funds for stocks, and then bond money is invested in diversified mutual funds and CDs. We don't use a lot of tricky stuff. You know, it's pretty straightforward investment material. And as we went through, we couldn't really find anything to do differently than we're doing. Irene is looking for people to help with the trust funds that are for the worthy poor. That's a quote. And you know, and money goes out on the cemetery care. And you had some thoughts about that, but we can, I think the cemetery committee can work on that.
Susie, what's the story on a trust fund that hasn't been touched in 64 years?
Yeah, 1963, the
Or
Alice
63
Russell
year.
Pool Fund.
That one, I believe, is.
It's the one they took all the money out in
Yeah,
63,
it's-
but $1,000.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's for, essentially, it can only be used to help encourage a student to stay in school. And it cannot be used for anything that the taxpayer should be paying for.
so it just sort of got stuck there
So what would that be then? If the taxpayers pay for
for all school.
pretty much everything.
If a kid was self-supporting, it could buy them groceries.
Oh, okay.
It's,
Just thinking off the top of my head.
it's, you know, if you have a low income student or a student that wanted to graduate high school and have an associate's degree in college and take some college classes that would transfer to the high school graduation program, there are schools that do that. That it could be used for something like that,
Does the school know that this exists?
probably, or they should. I think we're having a meeting with them.
But there's not that much in
No,
it
there's
now
not.
because everything was taken out in 1963,
Right.
but
Yeah.
$1,000.
So it's grown over those years to 80K, so we wanna not, you know, we don't wanna drain it, but we should make sure that the school
Seems like it
knows
ought to be used.
that
Yeah.
there are some rules
Well,
around
that's-
this, but it could be.
Like you said, if there were a student that were unhoused or needed food
You know,
to
some,
stay in
some high
school.
school people that are self-supporting and.
Wow.
That would be the thing, they would have to be self-supporting
Right.
versus just the family being homeless. Because then just supporting the family versus
Right.
keeping.
It seems rather subjective, though. Does it outline how those decisions are made?
Superintendent,
Well, that's what the trust says.
yep.
Oh,
Superintendent, that decision was to.
So then maybe when
Why do
you,
we even hold this trust then instead of the school?
It was donated
Because
to the
it's-
school,
It was,
made to the
it
town.
was set up by a will.
because we can't check, we don't know what to say on it.
It's from 1929.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
well,
it's,
but that, it does sound like it's something that it would be worth sharing the trust document and the amount of money in there with the superintendent. So that she's aware, and if there ever were a student
if
that
there's.
might be eligible,
It
then,
could be that there's been a use for it, but
so the superintendent's the only decision maker.
That's what it says.
But
Although
in
it would still
19
have to come through the select board.
yeah, I was gonna say, in 1963, you told us that the school took all the money, but $1,000 with town manager approval.
I don't know if it was town manager approval, the trust, I believe, I have to look at the documents, and I apologize, I didn't bring them. From what I understand, that I think it's the superintendent that has to
I have it in front of me. It was a gift of $1,000 in 1928 to the town of St. George, to the town. And the interest to be expended annually under the direction and supervision of the superintendent of schools and the school committee for the purpose of increasing the interest in the high school and common schools, if no high school, in any way the committee deems best. The end.
But since all the money that's held by the town has to be, disbursements have to be approved by the select board. It seems like the process would be that the school board and the superintendent would
Come to the select
come
board.
to us and say, we have somebody we think is eligible for this money. And then we'd authorize disbursement of it whenever. So,
But they should be aware.
oh yeah, definitely.
I think we have a meeting.
That's why, because in 1928, the school was a town school. It
Right,
was
we had high
before
school right
we had
here.
these other
Yeah.
things.
So that's my full report. Do you guys have any questions?
So why are there three separate cemetery trusts?
Because one was set up by a will. A gentleman said after his wife died, the estate was go to a perpetual care trust, and he listed the lots that it was to take care of.
Okay,
And it's to pay for things that the cemetery maintenance doesn't pay for, like putting cement underneath the stones if they're sinking, and cleaning and repair of broken stones and so forth. So that one was set up by that gentleman's will. And there's another one, it was common practice to have, for people to deposit money with the town for the perpetual care of their graves for basically the same purpose. We have a list of individuals that did this and a list of lots that those were for. And that's for them. And then the other cemetery is the funds that
For when
came to
people
us
die.
with Seaside.
oh, okay,
When Seaside,
when-
what was in their checkbook?
And
Is-
currently, any lots that are sold at Seaside, those dollars go into that perpetual care.
mhm.
And
So that one's general perpetual care for the cemetery as opposed to.
Seaside, right?
Yes.
And I believe it's Brandon's intention to just leave that alone, let it grow. And once we get the cemetery up to standard as far as the roads passable, the lanes passable, and gates taken care of and so forth, that we could get that built up so that that fund could take care of replacing gates and some of the maintenance. And
Yeah, that's accurate. We also weren't making the like legally required contribution to perpetual care for a while, and so that's why we're now.
Catching up.
but but we were paying for all the mowing.
Right, exactly. We were paying for the care. We just weren't putting
We
the
weren't
money
putting
into a
any aside.
fund, which is what is required. So in the meantime, we're putting 100% in to get caught up. When ideally, it won't have to come from, as much won't have to come from the commitment every year.
Eventually, hopefully, we can just pay for the mowing, and the preferential care fund can take care of the other things.
I saw in the select board policy about the town's fund investments. that the town's annual audit should serve as an independent review of compliance with the investment policy and procedures. Do we know if he does that?
I believe you will see um, in his report, in his audit report, you will see the trusts listed.
Okay.
So he does review those.
And my other question was, it says that the town treasurer shall establish written procedures for the operation of the investment program consistent with this policy. Do you know if we have an operation policy more specific than this general policy from the select board?
I don't know.
It's just, we
Well-
could,
Not even sure what it would entail.
well,
Right.
I presumably it would say how you communicate with Matthew or whomever is in that role and authorize him to do things and that, it would be specific operational procedures, I assume. But it
I
wasn't.
think it's probably somewhere because we do have. I know that the withdrawals, they have to have at least 2 signatures. And we have to update the signers with with the first. And we always just get 3 signatures. I don't recall a time that we've had just 2.
But Irene will check the drive
Okay.
and see if we've got it
If we
written
have
down somewhere.
something else, okay. Wendy, was there anything else about the trust that you thought we should be aware of?
No.
Well, I really appreciate that you did that. It hadn't happened since I've been on the select board. It felt like it was important to do. So, thank you. We signed the cemetery new regulations and rules. I have 2 nominations for committee and board appointments. One is Paul Gadet to serve on the Open Space Committee, and the other is Nat Lyon to serve as an alternate on the Board of Appeals.
I move that we approve those nominees.
Second.
Ryan seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? That's 5 of us. And there's still one more person that we've been playing phone tag and stuff who's interested in the Open Space Committee. But then once we figure out if she's truly gonna serve, then that committee can go ahead and plan to meet. And I know Aaron sent a doodle poll out, so anybody who's been appointed should be filling that out so they can schedule a meeting. All right then, town managers report.
Not much to report on, which is nice. We're doing some final road work before switching to the winter season, so we were repairing shoulder on Turkey Cove Road. What happens is the shoulder eventually builds up and grass grows on it and it loses its pitch, and so it keeps all of the water running right at the edge of the pavement, and then that washes it away. It crumbles off, creates these bad ruts. And so, and this because I think I don't know that we've ever, or at least not in recent years, put much intention into our shoulders and actually cutting them back down with a pitch that allows water to find ditches. And so, we'd have these ditches dug and culverts under driveways, and they'd be bone dry while there was water running down the side of the road. And so anyway, we did a piece of that work on Turkey Cove Road, and Steve is set up with an app. Stevie Jared is using an iPad and an app. So yes. Congratulate him when you see him. It's a-
21st century.
People told me it couldn't be done, and here we are. Yeah.
That's great.
But he's starting to do a bit more of that comprehensive sort of road survey. That type of work just
And this is big.
saves the town money in the long term by making the roads last longer. And so one of the pieces of equipment that we've attempted to fund in this year's budget and then needed to then buy different equipment is a backhoe that would allow us to do that shoulder work on our own. Because right now we have to hire, bring Jimmy Kellick down and pay his crew and their hourly rate and all of that, where we could do that in the slower seasons using some of the transfer station staff. It's easier for one of them to. So anyway, that's just sort of we're looking into some longer range planning for some of that road work.
I mean, we don't have a backhoe now to use, do we?
No, we don't.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And so,
something to consider.
and the budget committee had put it in the budget for this year.
Yeah, I thought we were buying one and trade
That
something
too.
else.
We put it, so one can at the transfer station, they had to replace two when we had one budgeted, another one went and would not be transported anymore, and so we had to replace it. And so
Money got diverted.
we had put the minimum in there, because it was already a big equipment year, and so when we took 15 out of there for the,
Wasn't enough.
right. So we should get there pretty easily next year at least. And then, we're working on our road plan for getting our hills back on track with resurfacing. And then switching over to sort of winter road stuff now. The town will be plowing the parking lot at the end of Old Woods Farm Road, and so Steve was over there today, sort of inspecting that before the storm, marking out some culverts. We do all of the Conservation Commission lots rather than paying Jimmy, but we did not do that one last year, and so making sure that got added to the report. Then otherwise, I've been meeting with department heads for working on building the budget initial request so that we'll be ready to meet with the committee in January.
When you were talking about taking the money for one purpose at the transfer station and transferring it to another purpose,
Well,
you can do that because of the way it was approved in the budget line.
All equipment.
yeah,
Right,
it was
it's all
transfer
equipment.
station equipment purchase reserve.
Right,
And that was the equipment that we needed
right.
in,
But I know that Irene and the new trio methodology has been to have many more lines, sort of specific.
I would actually say, well, there's more specificity.
Not tons more lines.
But I would actually say fewer lines because, that's like why it was in there as, the septic system was in there as like road contracted service, because not every individual thing gets a line anymore.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're all thinking about how those things are categorized when we submit the budget to the voters, because you can't move it if it's in a very narrow topic heading. But if it's in a bigger topic heading, like equipment for the transfer
That's what we
station,
did,
Yeah.
that's what I did, there's a one line, we have one line item for equipment and we can put that. We can add that account number to whichever department needs it. So the cans are equipment and this other piece of machinery is equipment.
right,
So rather than putting it in there as the specific backhoe,
right,
There are certain areas though, to your point, that did get much more specific. We used to have we'd have two sort of general categories of utilities and like an office expense, for example, that would encompass, many different things. Those are all very specific now to electricity, telephone, internet. And so that's, where it can be tough to.
Yeah, I think it's fine for internal reporting and record keeping to have it be that specific. But when we submit the budget to the voters, we don't need to say anything other than utilities.
Right.
You don't have to say what's internet and what's phone and what's,
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. So the committee reports, the planning board.
Let's see. The planning board met on the 25th. One somewhat interesting thing that I don't think is gonna affect anything, but for the Breeden peer approval, no findings of fact were developed, and it's now after the 30-day appeal period, so, and, they're clearly not gonna appeal the approval of the permit, but you should just be aware of that for long term, that not every approval has findings of fact. So just be aware that that was a significant permit approval, but there's no document.
But I attended that meeting
Yeah,
on Zoom
yeah.
and Michael Jordan said that the documentation and the minutes would
Right.
serve as the findings.
It does, yeah, yeah.
So it seems all the more important that their minutes be accurate. Thank you,
Thank you,
Susie.
Susie. The Verizon guy for the tower on the Water District property did not show up, so there was not discussion of replacing antenna on the tower. The last project considered was the coffee shop at Cod End. And as you heard, they want to lease the old Cod End from the Fisherman's Co-op. The running time would be May to October 2026, but possibly into December. There would be coffee, breakfast, and lunch, lobster bakes on Thursdays in the summer, and also a micro rental event center.
The term coffee shop's doing a lot of heavy lifting then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right.
That's right.
So,
I mean, be a coffee shop with some add-ons.
The significant thing, and this is my editorial, is parking spaces for that location. And they did discuss that they would rent 2 spaces from the co-op and then lease 3 to 5 spaces from the Odd Fellows and another 3 to 5 spaces from the Maine Coast Petroleum location. And if there was some kind of micro wedding, somebody would have to have a little bus bring people in. So it's still under consideration. They need to come back to the planning board with information about sign sizes and parking spaces. And so it's going to be considered, I guess, at the next meeting. So that's it.
The co-op already struggling for parking,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't have enough parking for their sternmen, and so sternmen are not allowed to park at the co-op.
Right,
A lot of them park at the public landing and some even at the town office.
but they're gonna rent 2 spots to these guys.
The 2 spaces are basically going to be handicap spots right in front of the walkway. So they're none of the spaces that are along the back of the
Right.
parking lot are gonna
I was
be
just
with the.
curious.
No, I think you're right.
I
I
heard
think you're
that.
right. I think that's, I think parking is an issue.
Well, parking in Tenants Harbor in particular
It is.
is an issue.
It is, yeah.
One thing I just threw out there to Brandon the other day is, the town owns that lot that's like Bowie Park,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mhm.
grass,
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly something we could consider at some point,
Sure.
is making that even just a gravel dirt lot that you could get, I don't know, 15 spaces in there or something. If,
Mm.
if it made sense, because it is, here's somebody who wants to start a business and their biggest problem is parking and that's a problem for the fishermen
Yep.
and,
Yes.
um. Does the CDC own that lot that's adjacent to, 47 Main?
I think so, the one that's up the stairs, yeah, I think they do. yeah.
But since the town owns that little corner across from the Historical Society building, that's just something we could think about.
Sure.
So the Board of Appeals has nothing, the Harbor Committee's meeting on
17.
the 17th.
Well,
The Budget Committee will be meeting on December 8th at 3 o'clock at the Cragmere. So it's open to the public,
Sounds like a happy hour.
and then when it's over, some people might be staying and not talking town business, but visiting. The Cemetery Committee.
They meet this Thursday, December 4th at 4:30 here at the town office in the upstairs room.
And the big Wreaths Across America Day is the
December 13th.
13th. So that was such a lovely event last year.
And the first ceremony starts at 11:30 at Wiley's Pond.
And then at Tennant's Harbor Baptist Church at 12:30.
Yes.
The Emergency Services Committee next meets in January. Aaron Dent and Van Thompson are still working, trying to get information out of the state to pin down as best we can projections of what we could generate if we were to have a TIF. Because, we kind of put that all on pause because it didn't seem like we could generate enough money to make it worthwhile. But, even thinking about like the little parking lot idea or sidewalks or to new businesses, even if it were just $100,000 or $200,000, not what we had hoped, some, millions. We need to know as best we can project before we walk away from that. So Aaron's trying to get a number for us. The Comprehensive Plan Committee will meet one last time on January 6th to talk about tracking progress on the plan and all the different committees and their responsibilities. And so I'll report back once that meeting has happened. The Conservation Commission.
We'll be meeting this Thursday right here at 4 o'clock.
And very exciting about Old Woods Farm, and I saw in the December newsletter,
It's a
they
nice
announced,
newsletter.
yeah, it's a very
Yeah,
nice newsletter.
Thing, yeah.
This
Worth
time.
looking.
Yeah, Shellfish Committee.
They met on November 18th in Warren, and there's really nothing new going on. And the shellfish warden just mentioned that there had been a few closures due to rain.
Oh, rain.
Well, that gets runoff going, right?
They get an inch of rain and they shut a lot of areas.
Do it.
And then you'll notice them down, a lot of them come down in Clam and, where Jim Scopland's place is. They'll go
Yes.
down in there.
Yes, they do.
The cows.
They do, they get in there.
Great.
I know, I was wondering, like, what kind of path is there? And
Down into this little.
it looks so uneven.
They get in and get out. So they go there when there's rain closures.
Solid waste and recycling.
They were supposed to meet on the 18th, but they decided they didn't have much going on. So that meeting was canceled that day, but Bruce Fagley, who I believe is the new chair, is working on a plan to expand the composting program. They sent out a little blurb about that, and they will start offering expanding the program by getting food waste they'll start with businesses and take it to the transfer station. They'll pick it up and deliver it to the transfer station. If that goes really well, they'll expand it even further. to
Great.
other public residents.
Parks and Rec,
I believe they meet next Tuesday.
resilience.
The Resilience Committee had its second community engagement meeting in person here. And I was disappointed at the attendance. There had been one the week before for abutters, which was
Right.
only on Zoom. But this one was in person and people on Zoom. So there was only 10 people in person and about half were from the committee. So there was very few people in terms of people who live in Port Clyde, our neighbors to the roads. There was about, I don't know, 15 to 18 people on Zoom, but they were the same people who had been on Zoom the week before. And once it was announced that this was basically the same meeting, some of those people left. But I just think it's important for people to know there's not going to be a traffic study associated with this grant. This grant does not contemplate it. There's not, people think there's gonna be construction based on this grant. No, I mean, we're gonna have to find funding down the road for anything that we vote on in terms of a solution. So it's somewhat frustrating to me, and I know Susie's done a good job at reaching out to people, but still people say like, I don't know anything about this, and I'm thinking, you gotta read, you gotta
Right.
read. There's some responsibility for you as a citizen
Right.
to look on the website, read things. So, anyway, there's
So,
another,
well, before you go on,
Yeah.
and since more people read the minutes of these meetings than anything else, what this grant is paying for is to explore the options.
correct,
And then have recommendations.
correct.
Then we would have to raise money if it costs something.
Right, and we'd have to make decisions about what we think is appropriate for the two roads. Yeah.
And what is the time frame for the, when
I
it's gonna be
think
done?
the grant needs to be done by next summer, I believe. So this is the first stages of community engagement. And they're also gathering information about the ecology of the site, you know, whether there's
Oh, boy.
whether there's sensitive ecosystems like eelgrass. And so it's, you know, I think in terms of the community engagement, the environmental firm that's doing that side of it is doing a great job. They're really trying to reach out to people.
Well, I think it's hard this time of year. I mean, that meeting was right before Thanksgiving.
Mm.
It also coincided with the school board meeting, and there were a lot of things taking up community attention right around that time. And so I think it's too bad, but I think hopefully people will realize this is going on. And if people are interested in what's happening, they can always contact Susie Ellis of the Resilience Committee.
Absolutely. And on Wednesday, there's a regular resilience committee meeting here in the afternoon, just to talk about where we are on both projects. Then on Thursday, there's a meeting in South Thomaston from 4:30 to 7 of teams, like action teams who are working on the climate action plan. And so there's going to be teams covering St. George and teams covering South Thomaston, but working on the same topics. So some of the committee is engaged in that, not everyone. So, yeah, so meetings this Wednesday and Thursday.
All right, and the Open Space Committee will meet as soon as people fill out the doodle poll. And I think that's it for committees. Oh my goodness, isn't this wonderful? We had a meeting that just lasted an hour.
Can you find any more things?
So our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, December 15th. And Brian probably doesn't know, not having been on this before, that last year, there's a meeting scheduled for December 29th. And if we probably will meet for 5 minutes to approve the warrant so that people get paid the week of New Year's and stuff, but that's usually, unless there are other business items that need to be attended to, we should be expecting that's gonna be really short. And depending on those of you who still work during the day, I think last year we did that at like 3 o'clock. And of course, we only need a quorum. So if you guys,
29th, I'll be able,
so on the 29th, we could do it at 3 o'clock.
so.
How about you,
Is that
Tammy?
on a Monday?
Yes.
Yeah, I can rush.
I mean, we could do it at 3:30.
No,
That's
that's all right.
5
I can-
minutes.
About
3 o'clock?
Yeah.
All right, so if you could tell
Still like
Patty
that.
to change the time on the
barely.
calendar, then that'll be the plan for the 29th. 3 PM, 5 minutes.
I'm in my pajamas.
Yeah.
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? That's all 5 of us. Oh, thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank
The
you.
reason I will check the warrant that week too, if there's not a lot of money going out besides payroll, the one person payroll.
Okay, if it's just payroll, I
Oh,
can
there's
do
coming
it.
in song, yeah.
It wasn't, you know, probably like the regular 2 week.